Well, it's great to see you here this morning. Welcome to the Christ the King story in Nampa, Idaho. Inside your program, there's a card, and you can let us know whatever you're willing to let us know about you, and then you can let us know if you have any questions or any answers, any prayer requests, any stuff like that. Does this side work too, Mel? Do you know? Not the middle side as much? Trying to figure out the light thing. Bring the middle back down. The one you just brought up, bring down. There you go. Anyway, sorry that you had to be a part of that, but it's what we do every Sunday, trying to figure this thing out. We had a great week in a whole bunch of ways. One, Brian Knight and Lisa Knight's daughter got married over here. And last night, it was a beautiful, beautiful ceremony. It was really fun. Last night, April and Ben Portugal had a baby. Yeah, isn't that great? It's really cool. A lot cooler if they'd have named it Ricky. But. And then a couple days ago, Dan Jump, who plays our bass over here, Dan and Megan had their baby, little Jude. So, yeah. A bunch of stuff going on there. Anyway, that's very cool. Excited about that. I have a couple things to just talk to you about before we get going. Some of the women in the church putting on a conference September 16th and 17th. We've talked about that a little bit. Just to let you know some of the people that are going to be speaking. We have Trina Riley is going to be a breakout leader, and Kathy Deal, and then Sherry Amick. Sherry Amy's going to be, where's Sherry? She's resting up and waiting. All right. Could we bring this down just a tiny bit? It's got feedback back here. Okay. And then let me bring a little more information about this leukemia swab drive, okay? Because some people thought it was to find out if they had leukemia. That's not what that is. On August 28th, we're going to have some people set up out in the foyer. And if you are willing to stop by and just take a swab so that they can see if there's a fit for people that need new blood or a bone marrow. Can you do bone marrow transplant or bone marrow on that too, on that swab? Do you know, Stacy? Okay. So the deal is, if you feel like, hey, I want to be a part of someone's recovery physically, that's how I'd like to show up, then what I want to invite you to do is to be ready for that day and just go out and take a swab, and then they'll let you know if you're a match somewhere, and then in the middle of the night, a helicopter will come and take you away. I hope that's okay. That part might not be true. Next Sunday, we have a new attendees lunch on August the 14th. That's next Sunday, 12:30, a little luncheon in the Commons, get to know a few folks, Q&A. And I think that's it for today. That's what I got. Oh, you know what I wanted to share with you is Brian Knight. You know, I've had some people recently do something that's never happened to me ever before in the history of my ministry, and that is ask me if I would speak on giving more. Yeah, that's not happened a lot. So what I like to do is I like to talk about giving in the context of the passage that I'm working on and where it fits and all that stuff. Anyway, I had Brian Knight got me a t-shirt. He saw this t-shirt in Los Angeles, and I forgot to show it to you last week. Let me just show you. So the one end is you don't talk about giving very much. You're really trusting that the Holy Spirit will work that out in the heart and life of the growing disciple, that they want to follow God's mandate. So let me show you the other side of you ought to be giving more. And you might not be able to see this well, and since this is on the web, I apologize to the pastor that did this. So this, I don't know if you get this t-shirt because you're a faithful tither. You imagine wearing this around? Faithful tither. This is from the Family of Faith Church, where everyone knows your name, and then the pastor's name is on the bottom. Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyway, I just thought he bought that for me because that's hardly believable. Anyway, but it happened. That happened right there. Okay, if you have your program, we're going to talk a bit, some more about the soul. We're going to specifically talk about the soul's freedom and Because the soul is the most important part of me, it makes sense that today's talk should start with a prevailing question, and it's actually a fill-in in your notes if you're going to take notes. And the big question is, and I think it's for every single day, it is this: am I interested in soul love? Am I interested in that? And you may not know what that means. You don't know how that's given, you don't know how that's received, but I would like for that to be a prevailing question that finds its way through this talk. Richard Selzer said, "I know it is the marred and the scarred and the faulty that are subject to grace. I would seek the soul. Yes, it is the exact location of the soul that I'm after. I have caught glimpses of it." Now you may say, well, what glimpse? And what does that mean? Well, I just got to tell you the backstory and where this little quote fits, because it's pretty amazing. Richard Selzer was a great surgeon, and he had to cut into the face of a beautiful woman to remove a large tumor. And he did the best he could, but in the course of the surgery, he accidentally severed a tiny little twig of a facial nerve that controlled the muscles of this woman's mouth. And her once lovely face would remain with this grotesquely twisted and disfigured mouth for the rest of her life. Before the surgery, she had that kind of face where when you see that person, you just turn around and look again and go, man, that is a work of God. That is just absolutely beautiful. She was just so lovely. And now that would never, ever happen to her again, ever. If they stopped to look at her face on that day, they would look for an entirely different reason. Well, her young husband was beside her in the hospital after surgery when she asked for a mirror. And as she looked into it, she asked Dr. Selzer, "Will my face always look like this?" "Yes," is his reply. "It will, because the nerve was cut." And so she was silent, but her husband smiled. "I like it," he said. "It's kind of cute." And then to add an exclamation point, he bent down to kiss her mouth, her crooked mouth. And Selzer wrote, "I am so close I can see how he twists his own lips to accommodate hers, to show her their kiss still works." And that's when he said, "I know it is the marred and the scarred and the faulty that are subject to grace. I would seek the soul. Yes, it is the exact location of the soul that I'm after. I've caught glimpses of it." The soul is seen when it reaches out in love. It just is. And the way that we reach out with our soul to love people is to bless them. That act of love by that husband was a blessing. The Bible's word is blessing, and it needs to be our word too. In fact, Dallas Willard said that churches should do seminars on how to bless and not curse. How to bless and not curse others. So if you're taking notes, number one, there are two great words in the Bible that reflect the posture of the soul. One is to bless, and the other is to curse. And you are always doing one or the other. And I think that's the first big thing that you have to come to grips with in this talk today, that you're always doing one or the other. I remember when I started this church in Redmond, and we had a launch team, and we'd spent several months, 3 or 4 months, just getting everything ready for this big launch. And it was a big day, and it was a big deal. And people were wanting to know about what was happening, because we didn't have a service yet. Everybody went to a different church. We'd meet on Sunday nights, and then we would keep planning, doing all of the strategic work to get ready to launch. And one day, I was putting together a big direct mail piece, 33,000 mailers inviting people to something that was different than anything else that they had experienced in that area in Redmond, Washington. And I went back, and here's this guy. He's just a plain, ordinary, nondescript, understated dude working the printing press. And he's rolling out all the stuff, and I come back there and I said, "How's it looking?" He said, "It's looking good." And I said, "Let me ask you a question. I want to pastor a church that is going to be for everybody. Do you go to church anywhere?" And he goes, "No, I don't go anywhere." And I said, "Why don't you?" And he said, "Because I was going to church and I had ministry there, and I was in a relationship with a woman, and I was living with her, and I know that's wrong, but I talked to the elders about that, and they kicked me out of the church. I haven't been back to the church since." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "I don't want to pastor a church like that. I don't. Not because living with someone is right, but because judging someone who is trying to figure out how to be well in their soul is right." So I said, would you come to my launch team and tell that story? Because I want to ask them right in front of you if this church is for you. Because if it's not, I'm done. And we just moved there and everything, but I just wasn't going to do that. I was not willing to be that guy. So he came, and he told his story, and I said, "Is the church we're putting together for that guy?" Because all of us have some version of that guy. No matter what kind of image management program that we put together for ourselves, we all have some version of that guy. And everybody, I said, I want to hear from every person. I want to assess the room. So one person at a time. And to the person, everyone said, "Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely." And it was an amazing blessing for this guy. I don't even know if he went to church, because it didn't matter whether he went to church or not, because that day, in that meeting, he was in church. And he was blessed, because what mattered more than how messed up he is that he has a soul that at one time was seeking God, and that there's a place where he could come back and continue that seeking. If you're taking notes, the blessing is a projection of good into the life of another. And it's really interesting because, we have books that talk about excellence. We have books that talk about Christian perfection. We have books that talk about great, Jim Collins' book, From Good to Great. We have all of these great, big, huge descriptors, But the Bible says God is good. So we don't use the word good very often. Good is really good. Good is good. God is good. We are really grateful that God is a good God, that is a virtuous place to be in relationship with a good God. John Ortberg says, blessing and cursing are not compartmentalized Bible words at all. They're simply the two ways that we treat people. They are inescapable. They're as inescapable as breathing out and in. Blessing is the posture of the soul, and we are either giving it or cursing all day, every day, in 100 different ways. So, before I went to work on this, Patty and I had a really, really rough day. We were both very, very tired, both physically and emotionally, and just a bunch of stuff going on. And it was about time for dinner. I went to sit down, and I cook dinner almost all the time. And I went and sat down, and Patty just said, "I'm so exhausted. I'm just so exhausted. Will you prepare the coffee for tomorrow morning?" Because she likes to have the coffee prepped on the timer, so when we wake up, house smells like coffee, and then I pour coffee and serve her and all that stuff. But she preps it at night. It's just the rhythm we have, right? She says, would you prep the coffee tonight? I'm so exhausted. And I said, yeah, I'll cook dinner and prep the coffee. And she said, never mind. I said, no, I just said I'd do it. And she goes, I heard that. You heard what? I heard what was in your voice. There was nothing in my voice. I will do that, okay? I'll do it. Seriously, I'll do it. And she's like halfway done. And I'm not even realizing to the full extent how much I'm lying right now. Because I am. And it took me like 2 days to figure it out, and then I had to go tell her, I lied to you. She goes, I know. And then when I went to work on this talk, I realized that little inflection in my tone was the cursing. Some of you are expert cursers. Passive cursers. You can curse someone by lifting an eyebrow and putting it back down. Right? And I'm telling you, I mean, I could have said, I would do that for you. Come and have a seat. And it would have been a blessing. It would have been the good of God. And ever since that moment, I have been hyper aware, and I want to stay this way so bad. Hyper aware of what I'm putting out. Is this a blessing or a curse? Because our soul is very, very sensitive to blessing. And it knows the difference between blessing and barter. Some of you need to just let that one hit. It is not a blessing when something is attached. You know? If you're taking notes, number 3, both giving and receiving a blessing take time. And it is not a barter, it is grace. It's grace. So, I went up after I put this together, and I went up and I grabbed my wife's face. And I said, just looking in her eyes, and this was not easy for me. Some of you are way better men than me. I looked her in the eyes and I said, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. Man, that was hard and so good and so right. So I want to give you some blessing lessons for a minute, okay? That blessing, I want you to look at with me. Intentionally blessing, even though you're always either blessing or cursing, just to do this. May the Lord bless you. That means the Lord constantly bring his good into your life. Constantly. May he do that. And may the Lord bless you and keep you, which is really interesting because it's saying, I'm willing that God should be your protector. That I am not going to use my overdeveloped sense of responsibility to somehow protect you, but to trust that God would be your protector. Not that I don't have a protective role, you know, but that I'm willing to trust God and that he would make his face to shine upon you. And in this context, it's a it's a glory context. Last Sunday, after the second service, you know, I have my 3 kids come here and all my grandkids and those grandkids that are in the oven and those that just got out. And so I walked out and I saw one of my granddaughters, Ella, and she's 2. And I said, Ella. And she caught my eye and she caught my voice and she ran to me. And my face, looking at her face, was full of glory. It was a glory moment that we got to share together. His face shines on you like that. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine on you like you do your lover, your kids, your grandkids. And may the Lord be gracious to you, intentionally loving you without end, without reservation. Now, you're saying, well, he's going to do that anyway. I know. But when I get to give that, when I get to impart that, when I get to speak that into my soul friend, it's powerful. It's a created thing. You can't take it away. And it's honoring, and it means something not only to the person, but to God, because he's given that to me to give. May the Lord lift his countenance upon you. And this is what happens when I let somebody know that I am fully present. God's countenance on you is God fully present with you. May God be fully present with you. And in doing that, it also gives me the invitation to be fully present with my soul friend. I get to do that as well. And may the Lord give you peace, unthreatened, undisturbed soul rest. There's your blessing lesson. If you're taking notes, it is never too late to give and receive a blessing. Never. Blessing is how the soul feels its worth. Remember the Christmas carol about the Lord coming and the soul felt its worth. Blessing gives worth to the soul in the conversation. John Ortberg says, those are amazing words that everybody has a soul. And then he says, we demean people when we forget they have the depth and dignity of a soul. Even the people I don't like have souls. The soul cries out for connection. To love someone with your soul means your will, your choices, your mind, your thoughts, your feelings, your body, your behaviors, and your habits are aligned for the good of their entire being before God. That could go on a bathroom mirror to be read daily. We bless the soul when we love that way. That is soul love. When I was getting a massage a couple weeks ago, and I was talking to the masseuse about grace. She said, I give grace to everyone except pedophiles. And I didn't say anything because I know that's a deal. Except here's the problem. Pedophiles are people typically, almost always, who are reenacting what happened to them because of what happened to the person that was reenacting when it happened to them. And pedophiles have a soul. Muslim terrorists have a soul. We don't get to be in the blessing of walking in the footsteps of the great Rabbi Jesus the Christ and pick and choose who matters. Because to God, who is good, everybody matters. Everybody. And almost always, we don't know the source of what it is that makes us uncomfortable or crazy or angry. We don't know the source. We don't know the backstory. To love someone with your soul means your will, your choices, your mind, your thoughts, your feelings, your body, your behaviors, your habits are aligned for the good of the entire being before God. You don't have to like the person to care about their soul. At the wedding last night, or 2 nights ago at the wedding rehearsal on Friday night, So Brian's got all his peeps there, all his family and entourage and everything, and everybody's trying to get lined up in this huge, huge, big entourage of people that are going to be coming in and seated and part of the wedding party and all of that. And there's an elderly woman there that's about 4 bags short of a full pallet. She's just not all there. And you can tell she's just, elevator hadn't gone clear to the top floor. And so I have people over here I want to be with, but this person is engaging me. And I have a decision. Am I going to find a graceful way to dismiss this conversation and to go be in a conversation that I want to be in because I want to talk to them? Or am I going to care about the soul of the person in front of me? I love it when people care about the soul in front of them and don't look around to see who else may be around or who else may be important. You ever done that? Have you ever gone to a church and you're talking to the pastor and he's like this and then he's looking around to see who else is there, and you don't have that person. You don't have that. Or anybody else in some business. Here's what I've learned about soul love. Number 5, I am only interested in loving your soul to the degree I love mine. It's true. Love your neighbor like you love you. Jesus said that. You don't love your soul, don't expect that you're going to do well loving other souls. You have unfinished business with pain wrapped around the issues and the history in your life that causes you to feel soul sick. Don't expect that you're going to treat people very good. In fact, to the degree that you're hanging out around somebody who's got the same soul sickness, you may actually lash out at that person. A great example in the Bible, and there are lots of great examples in the Bible, is Jonathan and David. David of David and Goliath. Jonathan as the son of first king of Israel, Saul. Jonathan and David were best friends. And the Bible says that Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as he loved his own soul. So for some of us, if we're going to practice what I'm going to invite you to practice here in a couple of minutes, if we find that we're just not willing to go there, that there's blockage, we need to figure out what's in the way of freeing up my soul so that I can experience soul love. Aristotle said that friendship is a single soul dwelling in 2 bodies. I can only get to the soul love place and stay there if I stay connected at the soul level with God. It's the only way that I can do that. Soul goes out in love. In fact, so much so that number 6, a person without a soul friend is like a body without a head. I believe that. And I know people that have lived with such extreme isolation that the stories that no one gets to edit in their lives because they don't have a soul friend, the stories that drive their behaviors make them live just crazy, weird lives. Crazy weird. Because there's nobody that they're connected with as a soul friend. Observing with my head, if I just observe, like Brian Knight is a very, very good friend of mine. Yesterday, when we have this wedding, if I'm observing him with my head, then I'm watching that guy. That's what I'm doing. Thinking with my soul makes that guy Brian, and it's about us. Not about him. Oh, that's nice. It is about us. When Brian Knight rounded the corner, carrying his daughter on his arm up that aisle, I looked at his face, and this now was about us. And he cried, and I cried, and he cried, and I cried. Then I started the service and called her husband's name her brother, so it looked like she was marrying her brother now. And everybody had to stop and correct me because I was all kerflumped. You know why? Because Brian was all kerflumped. Well, why would I take that on? Because it was about us. Life was meant to be about us. Okay, so we're going to take communion in a couple minutes here, and everybody can line up, but don't come up quite yet. I know I always do that too. I'm sorry. But before we do, here's what you see those deals if you're on social media and stuff, like in Facebook, they go, it's the marriage challenge, every day for the next 7 days, put a picture on about you and your spouse, or it's a husband challenge, or you have all these challenges. I'm going to invite you to a soul challenge, okay? This one is harder than any challenge you've ever had. It's a soul challenge. You ready for the soul challenge? Wow, really? You ready for a soul challenge? Are you? Okay, because this is a big deal. I want you, every day, here's my challenge. Every day, between now and next Sunday, to look at an intimate. It can be the same person every day. It can be a different person every day. I want you to look at a soul friend, and I want you to look them in the face and bless them. And you can use this blessing. May the Lord, and say it slow, and do not use humor to get out of the deep emotional place this will take you. Because you'll want to do that. You will, huh, Guy? Yep. Uh-huh. So memorize this passage. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Hold it in front of you. If you have it memorized and it's a spouse or someone that you're willing to just hold their face. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you grace. Every day, give a blessing. Are you up for it? You better be up for this. You better be, because here's the deal. There may be a candy reward for you. Now how many are in? The soul challenge. Memorize a blessing. Or write your own blessing. Intentionally give that blessing. Okay? Okay, guys. So now, in the most extreme blessing that has ever been given by anyone in all of humankind, we come to celebrate the life, death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And we do that for one big reason, because it's the receiving of the blessing. So as these elements go by, the juice that represents his blood and the wafer that represents his body, take and hold. You don't have to be a member of this church. If you have sin in your life, confess it. Hold these elements, the little cup and the wafer, and confess your sin and clean your heart. If you're not in a good place to take it, just let it go by. There's just nothing but respect and admiration, integrity in doing that. Okay? And so when you're holding these, then close your eyes and bless him. It's so crazy to come to a place where you start to realize that this isn't just about him blessing me, that I actually get to bless him. Bless the Lord with your soul. Bless him. Okay? Thanks, Mike. Bless you. Really. So you can say, with your heads bowed and your eyes closed in respect and adoration, may my life bless you, God. May my life shine with your glory today to reflect you. May I be gracious to you like you are gracious to me. May I be a blessing in that I will be fully present through this day with you as you are fully present with me. And may my soul and my soul's rest be a blessing to you, my God, my Redeemer. It's why he sat with those that were his soul friends and broke the bread. God was so present in that moment. He said, "This is my body. And my sole invitation is that it would be broken for you. Let's eat together. Be thankful." May I bless you with my body, Lord, my God, in the same way you blessed me with your body. May I bless you with my soul so that my will is in response to the soul connection you and I have today. May I bless you with my mind to think the best of people like you do, so you'll be blessed in my blessing. And then he took the cup, said, "This is my blood shed for you. All that we might know the affections of the Father. Let's take and drink together, shall we? Thank you so much, God, that if we went our whole life without intentionally blessing you, it would never stop you from blessing us. But after today, Lord, now that we know stuff that a lot of us maybe didn't know before, would you remind us that everything we say is a blessing or a curse? Would you help us to do the hard work of being at rest and connected so that we can intentionally bless? And all God's people said, amen. Let me just tell you, C.S. Lewis, the guy that wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, where we enjoy the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and then Four Loves and all the other things that he wrote. C.S. Lewis said, busyness is laziness. And what he meant by that is that the harder work isn't to stay busy and distracted and build things to gain the world's acclaim. That's actually easier than the hard work of being still, finding time to be at rest with your soul, and intentionally deciding to bless a soul friend. Do the hard work of blessing a soul friend. It's your soul challenge. Let's stand together, and we'll consider ourselves dismissed. God bless you.